Hello, thank you for joining us today. We are talking today about our clinical theme for December, which is communication. And we are really, really honored and thrilled to be welcoming a special guest to help us dig in a little deeper to this topic today. And we have joining us Lori Goldblatt from Meaningful Passages right here in Dundas. And we are thrilled to welcome Lori to the Cherry Tree Practice. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning, Cree. Thank you so much. I'm really honored that you thought of me. Yeah, I'm happy.
Oh, well, I was just going to say we're really honored that you said yes when we extended the invitation. You're just such a wonderful person to have on here and to come and talk with us, Lori, about this theme. And I know I have learned so much from you and the work that you do in nonviolent communication, or NVC, as we often refer to the model. And I'm wondering if you could just share with us a little bit about the work that you do. Um, and our first question really is, what is NVC? What is nonviolent communication?
Sure. So what I would say about nonviolent communication that is the most meaningful for me and how I connect to it is that it's a way of really understanding ourselves and what's important to us, as well as what's important to others. So when I'm in, even in just relationship to my own thoughts and feelings and what's motivating certain ways of approaching something, it's really helpful to understand that in behind whatever I think or do, there's a whole realm or world of values that I have that are driving everything that I'm thinking about, everything that how I approach a situation. And that is also true for every human being on this planet. And so when I stay connected to the fact that we're all really valuing similar, so we talk about universal needs in nonviolent communication. And what that means is it's not like I need Cree to be kind to me. It's that I value kindness. So one of the things that's really important in this kind of communication is understanding that there's something really important that's behind something that I'm wanting from a person or from a situation, but I'm trying to also separate what is my strategy from what is it that I'm valuing. So I'm valuing kindness. And so what does that mean in my relationships with other people? And how would I want to express that in the world? And how would I want it expressed to me? Those are the more specific requests that we get into. So NVC gives us a sort of a roadmap for how to really communicate with ourselves and with others. And especially at this time in our world, in this time, this period in history, I think more than ever, it's really important that we are self-connected and that we are understanding, kinder and more open ways of seeing others as well when they're responding to us.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful how you said that. Thank you for that description. And so NVC is about relationship with others, but also I think I'm hearing you say relationship with ourselves, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Relationship with self, and behind what we want, what we're longing for, what we desire are those fundamental needs, right? Those core needs we talk about so much in this work. And really reflecting and using those needs to, and that represent values as well, as a bit of a roadmap, right, in terms of how we relate to ourselves and others and the world at large,
Yes.
right?
It's really key. And I think, and probably in your practice as well, so many people, when they learn NVC, the first thing they'll say is, wow, I had empathy for others, but I never knew how to be empathic towards myself. Like I never knew how to really understand why I'm doing something. We get mired in shame and guilt and all of those, really challenging emotions. And we don't understand that behind all of what we choose to do, there's lots of reasons behind that. There's lots of values and fundamental needs we're trying to meet. And sometimes we don't maybe do it as skillfully, but when we have the awareness, we can move into a place of compassion for ourselves. And that opens up another way of being compassionate to others. It's like, if this is driving my behavior and I can be compassionate to myself in this, then when somebody else, does something or says something, maybe I can look a little bit deeper than just what's coming at me in that moment. I can take a moment to pause and think, gosh, I wonder what need are they trying to meet? What is behind that for them? And that supports my well-being, because then I'm not taking things personally.
Wow.
I'm understanding what's driving behavior. And yeah.
That makes so much sense to me. And I love that approach. So, kind of really building that awareness piece, as you said, tuning into what is it that I'm experiencing in this moment emotionally, what's going on internally for me. And then even maybe taking a guess, is that right? About, even if we're not sure about, I wonder what needs are underlying those emotions. Right?
Yes.
Kind of where is this coming from? Digging a little deeper into those roots of what's coming up and why. And that then informing our conversations or dialogues, or even understanding of how other folks are behaving, and what other folks are saying. And so it's really that again, coming back to that relationship with ourselves, and in that two-way and that global communication as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some wonderful teachers in nonviolent communication, and I continue to take courses in it, especially now online. It's so much easier. But one of the things that I was taught was, even if you just connect to what is it I want, and then ask the next question is, why do I want it? And the why do I want it is getting you to the need, the truer need behind it. So, I want to be spoken to with respect. What does that actually mean? How would that look and feel for me so what does it really mean? I want every interaction to be one that's meaningful, that's connective, that we're considering each other, consideration. So it gets me deeper when I ask the why. Why is this important to me? And the other thing that I would say is that one of my teachers, Mary McKenzie from the Nonviolent Communication Academy, one of her techniques is, when you're in a situation and it's really challenging, to actually go to the positive thing of what it is. Like, so she would say, I love it when, so let's say, I love it when Cree is looking at me in the eyes and taking a moment to really hear me. So let's say it's not actually happening in that moment, but then I'm connecting to what it is. So if I'm with my daughter and she's, not able to hear me in a moment, so I might say to myself, I love it when my daughter is able to really listen to me. And that connects me right away to what my need is, to what I'm valuing. So there's something beautiful about just saying, I love it when, even when it's not happening, it's like, this is what I aspire to. This is what I would really value in this moment. And I don't know how else to ask for it. So I'm in my mind saying, oh, I just love it when, even when it's not there.
I love that. So really focusing on the what and the why helps us to kind of deeply connect to what's going on with us. And then I love it when, even if that's not what's happening in the moment, that's the wish and the longing. It identifies the longing and the intention. Right. It reminds me of, I love that saying, behind every criticism is a wish. Right. What's behind that? What we sometimes experience as criticism, right? What's behind that? What's the longing? So I love those skills that you're teaching us, the what and the why, and I love it when.
There's simple ways of thinking about it. And Marshall Rosenberg, who was the sort of the founder of nonviolent communication as a process, he speaks a lot about the consciousness. So I just want to mention this, that, you can learn nonviolent communication and get very adept at using this sort of the steps that are taught: observation, feelings, needs, and requests. So those are kind of the formula that we talk about in nonviolent communication. What I would say is the most important thing is that we're trying to create a consciousness that's needs-based. If we look at every interaction and every way that we see ourselves and others from the place of needs, that we're always trying to meet a need. So even the most horrible thing that we witness in the world, behind that, for whatever that person has done, there were needs they were trying to meet, not maybe the strategies are
Yeah.
very healthy and they're harmful to others, let's say. But the need themselves, the needs behind, are always something relatable. So to me, nonviolent communication is always giving me the bridge with curiosity to know what is it that's driving this person in this moment to speak to me in this way.
Yes.
What might, so coming at it with curiosity.
Yes, curiosity, and
Mm.
curiosity eliciting that compassion as well.
Yes.
Right. So I love how you said that the strategies may not be effective or may
Mhm.
even be unhealthy. Right. But
Mhm.
let's look behind the strategies. What is the fundamental human need? And at the end of the day, we're all these just walking bags of behavior. I always say that we're these big bags of behavior, as humans walking around trying to get our needs met all day long.
Yes.
That's really what we're all doing here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
so interesting. Okay, so that's fascinating. You described that so beautifully, and especially the bridge. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, something that we're hearing come up a lot in our practice is the holidays are coming up. We're
Mhm.
in this kind of gray area now. We're kind of
Mhm.
coming out of the pandemic, but it's not
Mhm.
over yet. We are allowed to see family and friends again. We are trying to reintegrate. And a lot of us are noticing that a lot of stuff is coming up. And
Mhm.
as we're kind of making our plans to gather over the holidays and wondering what that looks like and navigating possibly some complex, challenging dynamics and anticipating perhaps some tricky conversations or even just the uncertainty of not knowing what it might be like to be all together again. Is there a
Mhm.
way, Lori, that we can carry some of what we're learning today and carry that sense of identifying with the emotions and looking at the needs behind them, coming
Mhm.
at this from a place of curiosity and compassion? How might we, in a practical way, bring that into um, whatever we are entering,
Mhm.
as we reunite with each other?
Yeah. I love that question. And it's such an alive thing for all of us right now.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing I probably would go to, and it's something I'm sure that in your practice is also recommended, is just to stop and take a breath, because so often it's like my moment to sort of check in. It's like, ooh, sometimes I'll take a breath and put my hand at my heart. I'll
Yeah.
try to do it subtly if I'm with family or friends, because but I might just even just tap my heart area just to kind of bring me into, wow, whew, what's coming up for me, what's alive in me right now. Yeah, what actually isn't. So I might be feeling some fear or some anxiety or some big disappointment or some anger, yeah, at something maybe that someone has said or done, or yeah. So I'm often just taking a breath and giving myself that moment to just bring the energy back into what is it actually for me that's going on. Because if I can't connect to myself, then my responses are going to be more reactive.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll choose not to engage. Quite honestly, sometimes when my emotions are that high, I may have to just remove myself from the situation, or I might, in advance of the situation. One of the things I'm really looking at doing, there's a woman named Arnina Kashtan, and she teaches something called the compass. And one of the things that she sort of talks about five ways that we can connect to what's important in us. So even before I go into a situation that I know could be charged for me, I'm asking myself, what is the world I want to live in? And how, if I want to live in a world that is caring for all of us, then how can I bring myself into that world? How is it that I would like to be in that world? So her first question is, what is the world you want to live in? What's really important to you? Is it that you want to get along with people because you really value connection and you value respect and all of that? Or, so what is it? So first kind of determining, even before I walk into a situation, what's the energy I want to bring to this? I want to stay connected no matter what. So what is that going to look like for me? So that's one thing, is even in advance of going into that situation, is to start considering those kind of visions of what it is I want to bring,
Okay.
the energy I want to approach this with. And then once I'm charged, take that breath, maybe connect a little bit physically to my body with, maybe a hand on my heart or tapping or something that kind of connects me into my body a little bit. Noticing what's going on, having some compassion for myself in that moment. Wow, I'm really, I'm really stimulated here, really triggered by this.
Hard. Mhm.
Right? What is it that what's behind it for me? I really valuing safety. So when we get into some of those really heavy conversations around whether it's political or social, whether it's around vaccines or whatever, it's like, what are we actually together here valuing? And to me, it's usually about safety, about integrity, our own really valuing ourself and what's important to us in that moment. I would never want to take away somebody else's, in terms of integrity, like their choice around how they're feeling about something, even if their strategy might be so different from what I think is really important, comes from that. When I really dig down, I realize, well, we're both valuing safety. We're just looking at it from very different perspectives,
Yes, yes. Well
right?
said. Yes, I love that. I love that. And I love what you said about trying to become aware of what is alive in us as a starting point,
Yes.
right? As a
Yes.
starting point, taking a moment, allowing ourselves to take a moment, breathing,
Mhm.
connecting with self,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Bringing mind and body together, hand on the heart or the gentle tapping.
Mhm.
What is
Yeah.
happening for me right now? And what are
Yeah.
my needs? Maybe I need to step out of the room. Maybe I need to take a
Mhm.
break.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I get my needs met in this moment for maybe some self-compassion? Maybe I do need to, maybe I can ask someone to come out with me. Maybe I can give a quick call or a text to someone just to get a bit of reassurance. So I'm actually feeding myself enough so that if I go back into that situation when I'm ready, I'm feeling more full to be able to deal with whatever's there. The other thing that I loved, I just took a course recently. Oh gosh, I'm just going to come. I really want to say the name of the two people. It's called Working Together for Change. So it was about having really challenging conversations around race, anti-racism stuff, and other topics that are really challenging. And so the two teachers were Itzel Hayward and Kathy Simon. And what they taught me was, that I really loved. It was just a phrase. So even if you don't say this out loud to the person you're in maybe some conflict with, even if you say it just to yourself, that I'm realizing
Mhm.
that in this moment, you and I are thinking about this differently. And I really do want to understand your position. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe it's I really I'm not ready to hear your position, but I'm really understanding that we're seeing this from different perspectives, and I still care about you. So that could be something I say internally to myself, or I might say it out loud. Cree, you and I can see we're thinking differently about this particular subject. And if I'm resourced enough in the moment, I might say, I am curious to hear more
Yeah.
about understanding what it is that the reason you do feel this way. Would you be willing to share that with me? And only if I feel resourced enough. And then I will just sit and just listen until you finish sharing. And then I might say, once you finish sharing, I might then offer like, what it is I heard you say. And then are you now willing to hear me? Once I finished listening to you. So it is a technique, and it's something that, really listening and really being curious about, I want to connect with you, and I'm really curious about what is it that's causing you to feel this way about this
Yes.
particular topic.
Yes, yes. And it feels when you speak that way, Lori, it feels so genuine to me. It
Mhm.
feels so authentic and also very gentle and
Yes.
non-judging. right?
Mhm.
And curious, and the intentionality behind really highlighting, I care about you, right? And
Mhm.
here's what I'm noticing. And then kind of opening the door with those gentle requests. And
Mhm.
even acknowledging, whoever we're dialoguing with may or may not, as you so eloquently put it, be resourced in that moment. So they may not be able to hold the space for us or to hear us, right? Or we may not be able to align in the same way in this moment. And that's okay,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But using kind of those techniques,
Mhm.
something very concrete we can use to really be authentic about what's happening for us and curious about what's
Mhm.
happening for whoever else, we're
Yes.
interacting with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that you said it that way, because for me, the truth is I may not be resourced in a moment.
Mm.
I so often, even with my children, so I've grown up children, my older daughter lives with me, she's 32. And there are times where she wants to share something with me and it's at night and I've already lived a full day and I'm not feeling resourced. And sometimes I need to say, I so care about what you want to share with me right now. I love you so much. And right now I'm realizing that if we have this conversation, I'm not going to be as present. I'm not
Yeah.
going to have the capacity to be able to really hear you in the way you may want. Would you be willing to share tomorrow, or would you be willing just to have me hear it but not respond? So I'm really caring for myself and I'm caring for her in that moment. So I think we can do that.
Yes. And there's such an honesty there as well.
Yes.
Right? And if you didn't say that piece, and I know sometimes I'm guilty of this, just kind of blurting out, let me tell you, right? Let me tell you something. And something I've really learned from NVC is it's okay to ask, to ask if the person we're speaking with has capacity for this right now, or a resource, right, or energy or time, and to kind of go in gently and say, there's something really coming up for me. I'd love to share with you, or I've really had a day. Do you have space to hear this right now? And if not, that's okay. And maybe there's a later time we can come together for that sharing, right? Versus I just kind of let it all out, making the assumption that you do have energy and resources and capacity and time to hear me, and then
Mm.
may not sort of receive the experience of the person holding that space for me. And that may result in not feeling heard or seen, or feeling hurt, right? And so
Mhm.
coming away from that, whereas sometimes, as you said, coming at it from the place of curiosity, almost really deep respect
Mhm.
and politeness, and asking in that gentle way, is a really lovely way to think about
Mhm.
this reciprocal need.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that. Because I think in nonviolent communication, what we're really focusing on is how to respect all needs. It's not that we have to meet every need, because
Right.
that's impossible, really, truly, in this world. Like, I think we do our best, but what we want to do is we want to hold all the needs as precious. And we want to recognize, even if we can't meet another person's needs, maybe it's not our job to do that in that moment, but we're still valuing and we're still showing care. So I could walk into a family gathering and somebody's saying something, and in that moment I might not have capacity, but I can say, I really care about you, and I just realized I can't engage in this conversation because I just don't have that in me right now to do. Maybe we can come back to it another time. That I just want I really care about you and I'm here. And maybe that's all we can do in a moment. So
Yeah.
to me, that's also a value, because I'm
Absolutely.
speaking, right? I'm speaking what I do care about, which is all the people in the room,
Yeah.
even if I can't express whatever is different about how I feel about something.
Yes. And offering that reassurance, I care about you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being able to offer that is such a gift, I think, in itself.
Yeah.
Yes. Lovely. Well, we could talk. I know we could talk all day.
Forever. Yeah.
And honoring our needs, and our audience's needs. I'm just wondering, Lori, if you could sort of share with us one takeaway, again, as we're kind of going into the holiday season and anticipating everything that's to come. Is there what advice would you give to folks watching, or kind of a key takeaway from conversation today? And then also, if there's interest in learning more about NVC, where might folks kind of go to find those resources?
Sure, sure. Thank you. I love both those questions. So I found this quote this morning, and I know I found it because I was supposed to share it as well. It's by a woman named Katie Reed. So the first thing I would say about this time for all of us in history and in this year and in the holiday season is, this is the quote: self-care is giving the world what's best of you instead of what's left of you. So I really think about that because I'm a person who tends to have a lot of energy going outwards to others. And if I'm starting to feel depleted, I'm realizing I'm not giving the best of me. And that's really truly what I want to bring into every situation in my life with all relationships I have. So I think what I would say again is, I have this thought of like, what's, especially at Christmas, what's my North Star? What's the guiding principle for me that I want to live from my life? What is it I value most? And if I'm connecting with that, it could be family, it could be connection, it could be love, it could be respect, it could be so many things. Safety could be one of those things as well. What are the guiding principles that are behind every interaction that I want to have? And I will also say, and have self-compassion, because I don't always meet those needs.
Yes.
Like I set that as my aspiration, but I also realize I'm human and I have my things that are going to come in. And so I have compassion also when I don't fully meet those needs. And I will say that I often do repair work. So I know that if I am missing the mark that I'm trying to aim for, that I have the ability to say, you know what, I'm really feeling some regret around how I communicated with you yesterday or last week when we got together. I would love to just share a little bit more about, how I felt in that moment. And I'd love to hear how it landed for you or something like that, so that I can always go back. I can always do that repair work. And I have confidence in that. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that fully answers the question that
It
I would.
does. And I love that quote. And if you have a moment to send that to us, I could share that in our notes,
Sure.
because I know that will resonate with so many people. That's so beautiful.
Sure.
I love it.
Sure.
And Lori, just before we go, you wear many hats in your life, and Meaningful Passages is such a wonderful organization that you started here in Dundas. I know you are a Reiki teacher and a Theana doula, and support people in all kinds of different ways. We're talking about NVC today, but there's lots of services you provide. Could you just say a couple words perhaps about those roles and Meaningful Passages and how folks can find you?
Sure. So we have a website, meaningfulpassages.com. So my partner and I, Rebecca, we started this because we're both Theana doulas, which are people who are end of life practitioners, helping people through the journey as they approach end of life. But I will say that actually we're all in the journey, no matter what stage of life we're at. We're in transition, so we help people really through transitional times. I'm a life cycle celebrant, so a lot of what I do is try to bring honoring through ceremony. So it could be a grieving ceremony, mourning the things that we have regret around or we've lost through time, and also what are we grateful for, or what are we taking with us into the next phase of our lives. So definitely doing ceremonies at different times of transition, birth, death, everything in between, and then really a lot of supportive listening through NVC, through this modality, and also using visualization techniques as well to support people when they're dealing with maybe some pain or physical, emotional pain. So lots of different tools. I'm trying to say it as a toy box, not a toolbox, because it's a bit more playful. Pulling out the toys and seeing how I can use those in approaching my life and for others as well. So NVC, I would definitely right now, I'm not teaching in this moment a course in NVC, but will be offering something in the new year. But what I would guide people to is NVC Academy. If you Google the NVC Academy, they're offering so much online. And also CNVC, the Center for Nonviolent Communication, SCNVC. So those are the two links I would go to for more information if you wanted to learn the basics about it. And there's lots of wonderful trainers out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and
we'll be sure to share those resources for people who are interested in learning more. Lori, it is always so enriching just to talk with you. And I always learn so much from you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your wisdom and your teachings and your services with us. Thank you so much.
thank you, Cray. This was such an honor and such a joy to
Thank
share
you.
this with you.